The reason I'm here to help talk about the training roadmap today is for the last 10 years, I've helped people understand Microsoft products. Since 2007, I've been working with SharePoint, and I basically spend a lot of my time visiting different customers, some small customers, some big customers, working with all different versions of SharePoint. So during the session today, we're going to talk about how we approach SharePoint education, how important it is, and some of the techniques and products that you can apply to make life a bit easier for people. I think quite often people spend a lot of time and money developing their SharePoint environments, getting the right licenses, building them out, and then they're often a bit surprised when their end users don't instantly adopt it. So the education part of that process is kind of what we're talking about in this session today.
And my name is Chris Casangina. I'm also a SharePoint trainer from Combined Knowledge. I've worked with SharePoint 2007 in a retail company for about 3.5 years, and I've worked with Combined Knowledge for 4 years now. So I've got several years' experience using the SharePoint product. As well as working as a trainer, I'm also heavily involved with the Support Plus product, which we'll hope to show you today, which is an adoption tool which can help your users understand and get to use with SharePoint much quicker than on average it not takes a company to adopt SharePoint.
So before we start to look at the different training approaches and different products and how they all fit together, there's kind of two core ideas that we want to work on as we go through the session. First of all, who needs to understand SharePoint? So within a typical business, which people really need to understand SharePoint and perhaps in which order? So we'll talk about that. And we'll do a kind of a case study to give you some idea of how that should work. Also, we're going to talk about when we've identified these people, how would we go about then engaging with them and actually getting them trained up so they have the skills that they need. So that's the main focus, really simple. Before we actually start on that, let's just try and work out exactly, well, do we need SharePoint education? Is it something that's important? So first question really, which is a question to the group, is SharePoint intuitive? If you just have SharePoint, will everyone just adopt it and just make full use of it?
Raise of hands.
So is it intuitive?
Sitting
yes.
on your hands.
Yes, we think it is intuitive, some people. So those people tend to be the people that have used SharePoint for a long time. So the people that tend to think, yeah, it makes a whole load of sense, it's dead easy. The more you use it, like ourselves, the easier it starts to get. When you put a new user in front of SharePoint, they often just say, is it a network drive? It looks a bit like a network drive, but it's maybe a bit slower. These are some of the negative things that start to come up if we just don't help people adopt the system.
How long have you been using SharePoint, by the way?
2 years.
2 years, okay.
So you've got over that point where you hated it and now you started to like it.
Yeah, initial started to use it after we moved to Office 365.
Yeah,
Sure.
so a big jump.
No, it was hard.
Yeah, so at first there's a bit of a learning curve. Okay, so we can make that easier for people. So in terms of what's the worst thing that could happen, people could have a really bad first experience of SharePoint and it becomes a bit of a swear word within the company. Yeah, so they don't know why to use it, they don't know how it's different to their existing systems like the older version of SharePoint they had or their network drives. Sometimes they might adopt it but just use it exactly the same as a network drive, so they don't actually take advantage of any of the things that you've specifically bought SharePoint for. So again, these are all training issues basically. So you have SharePoint, it's working internally, but without the right education, people are, in the most part, not going to make really good use of it. You're not going to get, I guess, the return on investment for all those nice licenses you've bought. This, by the way, is Benji. It's my dog. He's not really SharePoint related. Okay, so before we start showing you some different products and things that we've got to help with all of this process, just to run through a quick business example of where these people might be within our business and actually how we could help them. So we've got an example here of 2,000 employees, and we're either going to pretend that they're completely new to SharePoint or they have no vision. So that maybe SharePoint's been put in years ago, but no one really understood it. We just bought it because we were told it was the next thing. No one really understood it, and we have SharePoint for a while, but it's kind of empty or it's not being used properly. So if we break that down then into a few kind of groups of people that we start to break up and separate for their training requirements, first thing we've got is the IT pros. So if we're on premises, so we've got local SharePoint, some of the first people that will probably get their hands on it are our IT department, the people that are going to install it and configure it. So they're going to be really important in terms of understanding the system, maybe buying the right licenses and configuring and maintaining it. So we're going to talk about some things that we can do to help those guys. We've also got developers. So again, if we're on premises, the developers have got loads of different choices. If we are in Office 365, there's still going to be a requirement for our IT pros and the developers as well. They might need to know different things, okay, but they do still need some sort of an understanding. We then start to get underneath that into what we might call our more normal users. So we've got here 100 managers, we've got a large number of kind of normal or general users, the people that are actually visiting and members of the sites. And finally, we've got a variety of other people, such as decision makers. So all of these people probably need some sort of SharePoint education to get a good experience of it. In terms of the timeline, some of the earliest people are going to be the IT pros that are going to install it on the hardware, and the developers, that if they're going to design the thing and build it, we want that to happen before the end users see it. So in terms of the timeline, they're going to be some of the first people. So how would we approach that for these different people? Well, we've been doing this for a long time, so Combined Knowledge, where myself and Chris are from, have been around since 2003. So what we would have done back in 2003 is we were sort of anyone in any of those groups needs classroom training. The reason we would have said that is that was the only offering we had. And that's basically what everyone was doing back in 2003. If you wanted training, you pretty much needed to sit in a classroom, and that's pretty much what you did. So we continue to do that. We still think, you know, if time and money was no object, we still have everyone in the classroom. Yeah, if we could take everyone out for 2 days or 4 days in their different roles, and we could say, let's go to a classroom, let's customize a training session, let's have you there with the instructor, let's get all the questions done, that's what we'd recommend. So really that's not the be-all and end-all in today's age. There's lots of other techniques. So let's take the classroom for granted, so we're happy with that, and let's start to look at, well, what happened as we moved further down the timeline. So back in 2007, we released our first Support Plus product. So the idea of this is our boss, Steve Smith, really, since back in 2003, he's been really big on user adoption. So he was looking at how can we help people adopt new systems. So again, it would be nice to get everyone into a classroom and get them knowing everything, but not everyone needs that. So Steve's vision really was this Support Plus product, which would be a step-by-step guide that people could access easily from within SharePoint, and it would tell them hundreds or actually now thousands of different things they could do with SharePoint step by step. So it took all the things you could do and it broke them down into, to achieve this, so to add an item to a calendar or to delete a document, here's where you click, this is how it works. So it could be that people had classroom training, and then when they get back to work, they could use Support Plus to support themselves further. It could also be for the people that weren't lucky enough to get into a classroom in the first place, they could still use Support Plus as well. The people that just use Support Plus probably don't know as much, because they never went into the classroom, they didn't get that big background knowledge that you get from being in a classroom, the real detail, but they could still use SharePoint, so they could still feel, well, I have a question and I have a way of supporting it. One of the things that's kind of nice with the Support Plus, and Chris is going to demo it in just a second, is that it can also fit in with your help desk and support. So you might take a call on the help desk and they might say, well, how do I create a calendar, or how do I change the versioning settings on a document library, or hundreds of other things that I might want to do in SharePoint. So wouldn't it be nice to say, yeah, we've got the step-by-steps for that. You give them a particular link to a page, they could jump straight into that page in Support Plus, and they could get straight to those steps that they need. So has anyone developed any like frequently asked questions pages internally?
Knowledge base.
Knowledge bases, or a help desk, or a wiki. So again, you can, a lot of people start building their own, and they maybe get their first 10 step-by-step guides, or their first 20, or their first 30. So we carried it on and we made the step-by-steps for everything. So everything in SharePoint, and there are hundreds of them, we've broken down the steps. So hopefully if someone messages you as an end user about how do I do something, you can say, yeah, we've definitely got the step-by-steps. Support Plus includes that. Question?
No question.
It's more of a sigh.
More of any images on that, or anything would be relevant in our
Yep, so when Chris does the demo, he'll show you a few things to that. So pretty much everything we do, as we go up this, there's more stuff we'll pile on the top of these different choices. Everything we do we can customize. So whether that's because you have a customized SharePoint environment, so like you said, the homepage is different, whether it's because your developers have created something completely bespoke. So there was something I was doing for Islington Council a while ago, completely bespoke environment, different wording, different buttons. So we still created a series of videos and a whole training manual for them and delivered classroom training. So yes, it's easier if yours is standard and you can just buy it and you're finished. But if you do have customization and that's important, if it's different enough to be important to you, we can customize it as well. And there is tools, particularly with Support Plus, that can help you customize it yourselves. Sometimes if people have got their own in-house training departments and their own kind of support team, they say, well, we want to do it in-house. Sometimes that it scares them. I don't want to change so many things. And again, we'll just do that for them and hand it back. Yep, so yeah, we definitely understand with SharePoint especially, things are customized around the system and around the wording you use in your businesses or your industry. So yeah, we know that's very important. So Chris is going to do a quick demo of Support Plus, and then he'll hand back to me, and I'll carry on through some of the other things we do. So Support Plus is the first sort of big stop.
So as you saw with Rob's demonstration earlier, there was about 1,800 out of his 2,000 that were people who were just end users in the organisation, and effectively they make up the bulk of the organisation using SharePoint. Supporting that amount of users is quite difficult. So the Support Plus tool has been built on many different Microsoft applications, so it doesn't just cover SharePoint, it also covers other products as well. So there's a wide selection, and it goes back to SharePoint 2007, as Rob mentioned. That's when we got started with the product. So one thing just to point out is that we completely created the Support Plus product from scratch, and as Rob was saying earlier, the opportunity to customize that is something that a lot of our customers take on board, whether it's custom branding or whether they want the content updating so that it better reflects their SharePoint environment, whether they want to inject governance around their organization's use of SharePoint into the product. There are two ways around this. We can potentially do that for you, or you can purchase the editing tool that we use to create the product, and that gives you the opportunity to do this yourself. So there are many different ways of us getting the opportunity to work with the Support Plus product. Let's show you the out-of-the-box SharePoint 2013 product. And once we get an idea for what the product does and how it looks and how it can aid you, we can also sort of discuss how you can add it to your SharePoint environment. Okay. Potentially, you can just purchase any one of these products, or you could have a landing page, again, customizable. We could make this bespoke for your organization. This particular version of the product could be purchased by a company and installed on-premise, giving you the opportunity to have a help interface for the majority of your products. Remember that we got this content editor tool solution as well. If you had a third party or a bespoke system that maybe your developer is working on, if you've got the ability to author content, you can create your own help guides to complement your system in the same manner that we've created all of these Microsoft solutions as well. So, I'm just going to launch the SharePoint 2013 content. In my personal mind, I've worked on a support desk, and we had a SharePoint implementation that was not really made very apparent to the rest of the business. So IT had this new intranet dropped on their lap. The IT team had no training. The first thing we do is we start fielding calls about an internet system that we couldn't support. So what we had to do is we had to react as a department, but our calls started building up. We got into triple figures on the call desk. SLAs were being extended. We were starting to get into real trouble, and that's because it should have been that the business adopted SharePoint, not IT doing everything for everyone else. If we had had this solution, it would have been a much different story. So, one of the first things that I would do as an IT support technician is field the call. Hello, IT service desk, how may I help you? Yes, I am having a problem uploading documents. I'm not too sure what I'm doing wrong, but I can't seem to upload a file into our SharePoint environment. That's fine. I would like you to try a few steps first. By all means, I'll find a topic for you and I'll email you a support article. So as the IT service desk drills down into the variety of content, the hundreds of topics that we have in the Support Plus tool, there are two types of users. We're trying to support a reactive user, a user who's found a problem and wants to undertake steps to find a solution. We'll later talk about the proactive people who actually want to learn about things and are actually intuitive and want to build up their knowledge of the product. So we're going to talk about uploading a file. This is a particular, I'm just going to make this full screen. This is a Support Plus article on uploading content. So the first thing that we offer to a user is potentially the opportunity to carry out a simple number of steps to get them back on track. We use this help on top option to help them keep all of those steps on the surface of the product so that you can go into your SharePoint environment and see them side by side and potentially carry out those steps. Now, those steps are potentially backed up with other things that, as an instructor, I would teach you about if you're on a primary course. So, as you can see, there are tips on the right-hand side that give us the opportunity to learn out why our files being uploaded may have failed. We can't upload 0 kilobyte files. There are certain characters that are not allowed in the name of the file. We've also got little tips like this, which allow us to view additional articles on maybe moving content into SharePoint utilizing drag and drop with inline demonstrations. Now, if it says something like in the ribbon, click on the Files tab, and I was completely new to SharePoint, I wouldn't know where the Files tab is. So we up the game and we provide the Details section. The Details section introduces the subject matter in more detail, of course, but it also provides us with numbering that has a visual reference for every single step to make sure that people have the most up-to-date way of accessing and uploading that content. Again, we put hyperlinks into relevant content. Now, one thing that's very interesting is when people are searching for knowledge-based solutions these days, rather than actually reading an article, they go on YouTube and watch a YouTube video, because there's nothing quite as easy as watching someone actually do it. It's kind of proof in the pudding, really, seeing someone do what you're trying to do. So for that, we have our inline videos. Now, these are non-audio. We respect an open office environment. We provide an audio-based solution as computer-based training, but we believe that initially, if you're going in to watch a video, if you're in an open office, you don't want crazy music blaring out and lots of loud noises. So this is going to just run through a demonstration. These videos are high quality, but very low bandwidth footprint. So we make sure that the quality of the video remains high, but the actual size of the video is never more than about 1 megabyte. It's normally in the kilobytes region. This can also be taken full screen as expected. You've got your slider bars and the timings and all of that. So let's just jump that up to full screen. We also increase the size of the mouse cursor to help visual tracking on things like mobile phones as well. And then finally, once I'm ready, as an IT service desk analyst, I can just email that across to someone and say, here, this is your support solution. Hopefully, once someone gets back and gets this email and clicks on the link, they're back to work straight away. But next time, they won't call IT. They'll go straight to the solution and find a resolution themselves, hopefully mitigating some calls into the IT service desk. If someone was a little bit more proactive and started saying to you, does our training team internally do SharePoint training? Do we have any specialists in the business that could sit down with me and show me how to use the product? If the answer is no, then potentially that could be fielded with computer-based training. So computer-based training is a free module that's built into the Support Plus tool that gives you a user experience that allows a narrator to walk you through these particular subjects, and then you're quizzed at the end on how much information you've taken back from that particular subject matter. Now, these are narrated, so the best sort of experience would be as if you were being proactive as a user and wanted to learn more about SharePoint, you'd probably get either headsets or go to a room which has speakers and you can listen to the narration, learn about SharePoint, and then test your knowledge at the end of the actual session with a quiz. These don't run for more than about 5 to 10 minutes. They're short, punchy, direct, learning-based modules to give you what you need as you need it. Rob will display to you in a couple of minutes the Training Plus solution, which is more like a on-demand class, full modules, hour long. I won't to step too much on Rob's content, but that's, again, a very sort of different thing to what we're seeing here. It's a good question. So initially, if you get quizzed at the end of the out-of-the-box product, that information doesn't go towards any final metrics. However, these CBTs are SCORM compliant. If you have your own learning management system, we can insert those modules into your LMS system, and then we can actually work with you to configure them to say what your pass rate is. So this can potentially complement an LMS system as well. It's a good question. So how are we doing for time, Rob?
Pretty good, yeah, we're good.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was a sort of a little demonstration of the computer-based training module and also the Support Plus tool.
Sorry, just another word on that. Who do you envisage has this tool? Just the service desk?
No, not at all. So the service desk might use this to field calls, but this actual web-based tool will be available for all of your user base using the SharePoint product. I try very hard to sort of field that. So that's my casual what is SharePoint section. If someone hasn't really used the product whatsoever, we started off with this introduction tab, and logically we progress out to the more advanced stuff from the left to the right. So introduction, lists, libraries, sites, pages, workflows, social and publishing sites. So yes, we do have people who are I've never used SharePoint before. So again, we complement that with details on the various areas that SharePoint is based around, including a computer-based module for that as well. So we might say to people, maybe as a part of a new starters process, maybe something similar, that they can potentially watch some of these training modules to get up to speed with what SharePoint is. And then when they feel the necessary, they don't need to, they can look into the other stuff as well.
I think you might have misunderstood.
Oh, sorry.
My question is, if they are
Afraid of
they
technology.
not being competent on this tool?
Yeah, I think in context, I think in here, there's about 4 buttons in terms of I want to watch a video, I want to watch steps. Oh, so 4 buttons. Yeah, whereas in SharePoint it's about 300. So yeah, within here, there's no, they don't see any edit buttons, there's none of the normal checkout, check-in, so you could say to them it's much safer than normal SharePoint. And also the way they would get to here is either, as Chris described, from the help desk, I say here's a specific page and they could go straight to that page and they could get right there, or when they're in SharePoint within the ribbon or different aspects of the navigation, we can have links straight into the product from there.
Could I just...
Is that contextual from where you would be in SharePoint?
Yes, yes. So if you're in the ribbon and you press the button, yeah.
So if you're in a document library to upload, it'll take you to the document.
Yeah, so we can show you a quick demonstration of that. Here's an example of us adding the SharePoint. So this is just basically a SharePoint 2013 site hosted in Office 365. What I'll do is I'm going to add the app to the product. Anyone can add the SharePoint 2013 app from Support Plus to your SharePoint site. We'll just do an add an app.
Yeah, so there's a free trial available basically, which has a cut down version. I can't remember how many topics are in there, but it's a cut down
12
version.
topics.
12 topics.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is go to the SharePoint store. We all love that place. And we're going to pop in the Support Plus app. And by the way, as I've worked on a IT service desk, I know exactly what you mean.
You sent me an email.
Yeah, what do I do with the email? You click on the link. What's a link? I deleted the email. What do I do next? So what we're going to do is we're going to add the app to our 365 environment, just as an example. Now, as we add the app, what it's going to do is it's going to add a contextual button into the various ribbons in the SharePoint product. So if you're in the Documents tab, it's going to give you support with documents. If you're in the Library tab, it's going to give you support with managing the library itself, and the same with the other ribbons found throughout SharePoint. So let's go to a document library as an example. We go to Files tab, for example, and we should have our new button. Of course, wouldn't be SharePoint without it working on it. So we'll do Support Plus. And it's identified that because we're in this component of the ribbon, the buttons available to you are as follows. So you have sections in the ribbon for new files, open and check out, manage, share and track, copies, tags and notes. From this point, you can then drill down into the various topics that support that, and you can also flick back to your SharePoint site by clicking on the link at the top of the product.
Is there any sort of security training around that? Also, for people who are just standard end users, contributors, power users, we see more topics?
It's a good question. If you went on-premise, most certainly, what you could do is multiple publications with different audiences, and then you could use like audience targets web parts to say, here's your support tool, and it will link them to their correct area. With the 365 app, if you just dump that app in, it's just going to show you all the content. So yeah, it varies. The more custom you want it, the more likely you're going to go on-prem.
Yeah, and it's just the same distinction as with Office 365 and SharePoint on-premises. With the on-premises, we can customize it more and more because you're going to host it locally, basically, whereas in Office 365, we're hosting it. But I think what was kind of cool was that was a Office 365 site there that, let's say for now, had never had Support Plus. We went to the App Store, we searched for it, added it in. I held my breath for about half a second, but then it was there. So it's a pretty good experience in terms of installing it. You know, it's not a big technical issue like it maybe used to be with other methods for deploying stuff with solutions and those sorts of things.
I'm pretty sure that Office 365 site is the most confused website in the world because to keep taking the app away from it and then giving it back and then taking it away and then giving it back for each demonstration. It's like, can I just keep the app, please?
Presumably on-premise we can deploy it.
Yeah, so whether that be just within a website like an IIS, it doesn't need anything. We've deliberately made it so it doesn't have any real high technical requirements. We wanted anyone to be able to buy it. So everything's kept as simple as possible, which is good business. Okay. The other thing, perhaps just before we move on up this kind of hierarchy of what we've done a bit more recently, because we've been doing this stuff since 2007, you know. So for 2007, 2010 and 2013, we have Support Plus for those different versions, different menus. And also for Office 365, we have the equivalent product as well now. Yeah, so as things are being removed or added to there, we're trying to keep pace with that as well. So we keep updating those. Just to confirm as well, if anyone's thinking, well, why would I buy Support Plus? Well, in terms of the step-by-steps, there are hundreds and hundreds of those things. So if you're going to try and document that yourselves and you have that on your to-do list for your project in SharePoint, it is almost a never-ending task. So we've sat down a team of us and we created these steps and we created the videos, and it's consistent. We know the information is accurate because it's the same people that work hosting this stuff in the classroom and delivering the online webinars that put it all together. And again, we're continuing to update that for the new versions as things are kind of rolling forward. So as soon as 2016 comes around, when it lands, we'll be working on a version for that as well. Yeah, so at the moment, like in Office 365, which is the version that's been worked on most recently, as those changes coming through with adding things and removing things, we're updating things as well. So that's... Yeah, so if there were Service Pack, for example, which again, these things get less and less likely now as it's been around for a long time. But again, yeah, we know that SharePoint changes now. We will have to come to terms with that. So yeah, so we understand that, and yeah, we're updating those things. So we have people that are dedicated now, just working on the Support Plus. Myself and Chris work across the whole range of products to keep ourselves up to date, but there's people in the team that are dedicated.
There's
now.
A couple of product team members actually on the Combined Knowledge stand. They've got the white shirts on, so you can actually meet some of our product team and have a word with them about the product as well.
They don't get out a lot. They're normally in the office. So okay, so then again, just a couple of other things in the kind of the process here. As we come kind of a bit closer to today's date, so it's back in 2010, we started delivering online training. So I'm sure how many people had online training? Yeah. Okay. So we have online training. So the way it looks for us now is something like this. We've used a whole variety of different online training kind of software over the years. So for us, the online training, we're going to do a bigger demo of that on Wednesday, but you can see here we've got an example of Chris, we've got a chat window, the same classes and the same demonstrations that you would see from the same instructors in the classroom, we've taken online. I think we have the statistics on that. No, we didn't. So not got the stats on there now, but we've trained thousands of people through that method now, and we have quite a lot of customers, particularly where they're based all around the world. They'll pick a time zone and say, right, we want a particular class that's going to start at this time of day, and we're going to have this number of people join. So they join us. They get to see this type of experience. Very simple for them. Again, there's only a couple of buttons, so they click and join. They can click and chat. It's not a technical process. Again, it's meant to be simple. Also, as part of the training, they get access to either an electronic book that they can refer to after the course, or a printed book if they prefer. So still have a lot of people prefer the printed books. There's also time in the normal training online sessions where people get to try things themselves. They get access to a SharePoint server. So if you don't have SharePoint yet, but you still want to have training and you want to do it online, that's not a problem. We can provide a hosted environment that you can use during the training as well. Yep, so all those things people tell us they want, we've spent the last few years making sure that's all in place. And so the electronic manuals is one of the newer things that we're doing. And again, thousands of people have come through that system. I think it's like, was it 5,000? I think we're over 5,000 people, and hundreds of classes have happened. So the last thing we've got in terms of the time scale, just to finish off the session really, so since 2013 we've been doing Training Plus. So people were telling us basically that there was a bit of a gap between Support Plus, which was the step-by-steps, and an actual classroom experience. You know, when people see everything, they say, oh, I still want more. So what they wanted was something closer to a classroom experience. Yes, they wanted an instructor, they wanted it to be more detailed and more of a story to it, rather than just these are the steps, get on with it. They wanted to know why and then how, and then be able to follow it themselves. So Training Plus is our answer to that. So it's a series of 1-hour videos. Okay, so some of them are taken from modules that we'd normally deliver in the classroom or online. So we've recorded these 1-hour videos with the demonstrations as well. So you can, again, you can purchase that Training Plus set of videos and you could host them internally, and then people can watch them whenever they want. So it's all end user focused. All SharePoint, all end user focused. I don't know what the release date is, but yes, I've captured all the videos for the Nintex 2013, and which is a workflow product, and we're just waiting for that to be produced, basically. Yep, so that's kind of what's next on my to-do list.
Is that customizable as well? Has it got permission groups for what actions are allowed? So maybe
Okay, so there's different ways of looking at it. If you just buy Training Plus, that's kind of a finished product. What we've done for 4 customers now, so this is still relatively new over the last couple of years. So for 4 customers now, we've actually sat down, talked about what they want, and I've just recorded the videos. I've created custom demos in their environments, and we can actually turn that around quite quickly as well. So because the team creates it, and then it's produced in-house as well. So I think what I created, let's try and think, roughly speaking, I created 10 5-minute videos, and we had that we had the meeting, they told us what we wanted, I recorded them, and they got edited within 2 weeks. So that was kind of lucky because the timescales worked out, but that was a sort of turnaround. Because we work with this stuff all the time, as long as people can tell us what they want, we can capture it. And again, this is why actually those guys, again, had their own in-house training team, but they were so busy, they didn't have time to kind of get all these things on their to-do list done. So they were happy to hand this one over to us get it done and give them those custom videos back. And that was like a year ago, and they just asked us to update 2 of the videos, so we've just done that as well. So yeah, so again, we know the customization is really important. Just in case people are struggling to work out against the timeline when all these things happen, the way I always refer to things is when the Fast and Furious films came out. So Vin Diesel managed to make like 7 films whilst we were busy creating all these training techniques. So that might just help me kind of come to terms with how fast we've been working. Not quite Vin Diesel fast, but we're up there. Okay, so the last kind of product example is this Training Plus. So don't say I look old on it again, that's not very nice. So it's a quick example, this one's got audio on.
Created and delivered by product experts. Courses are recorded in easily digestible modules and augmented for concise delivery and effective learning, allowing users to...
So a lot of people think about SharePoint as being a single large area where we can store and share information across an organisation. In reality, SharePoint is not just one big, large area. It actually breaks down in a very structured way. To type it in lowercase, it does not work, as we've just demonstrated. So in capital letters, it will all... So this one is all around search and navigation. So it's about 1 hour long, the full thing. And you can see with the demonstrations, it's the same demonstrations that I'd be doing if I was in the classroom, talking people through how these things work. So rather than just the step-by-steps, which means people can kind of do things, but they still don't know why, with these topics, we step back a bit and we talk about the background. Why would you search? When would you need to use different techniques? How would you use it? We include a variety of content, so we search for documents and people and photographs. And again, we have, for 3 or 4 customers now, created customized versions of these. So it meant for them, one of the customers had about 6,000 users they wanted to roll SharePoint out across. They identified these series of things they needed to tell them, and we created these videos. For another customer recently, we created similar videos, but without me in front of it, but just the audio, and also had them translated into a few other languages as well, so we can deal with the language translation and putting the language back on. So again, you can just see there's a whole variety of techniques. So typically now, if we're working with a customer and they're rolling SharePoint out, or they're changing versions, or they're just maybe trying to get back on track with SharePoint that's not been going very well for them, it will quite often be a variety of these things, so a bit of online, maybe some custom manuals, maybe some videos, although that's still kind of the high-end stuff. As you can imagine, creating the videos probably takes maybe twice as long as creating a book, an electronic book. So really is partly on the timings that some of those decisions are made.
So the training class again, there's a...
What's the sort of cost for producing those videos?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, I'm sorry, I'm the wrong person for that. If you see Zoe or Catherine or Katie, they could all tell you those costs. It's basically development days. Yeah, when we talk to people, we ask them what do they want, then we tell them how long that would take, and then they maybe reevaluate, okay, maybe we don't need this, or maybe that's great, we can put some extra stuff in. And once we've got those timelines identified, then we go from there. Yeah.
Sorry, there's a second question.
Yeah,
Sorry.
which ones again are they examining again, training?
In terms of a quiz, like an exam. At the moment in this format they're not, but they could be, couldn't they? Because of the different products, effectively we could take these videos and put them into our CBT format, if that's what you wanted to do, and then the CBTs are compatible with that, so we can mix and match the content. Yeah, so you've got a record and that they were successful. Yeah, yeah, because you're putting all the effort in making this content and you want them to be using it.
So one of the products that we offer alongside Support Plus is a statistics tool to keep track of how they're using the products, whether there's repeated access to specific topics by people, and whether there's a training need there that we need to address. So statistics are just as important as providing the support as well.
Sorry, was another question?
Sorry, I've got two quick questions, and you may be coming on to anyway. Firstly, in the Office 365 environment, are you doing anything else other than SharePoint? You could be looking at how to use OneDrive.
So as in partnership with other people, so as from the SharePoint world, we've created the SharePoint content. There's already a lot of content for other products as well, created by other partners. So at the moment, when you go and you click on the Support Plus and it goes straight to SharePoint, there's already content for things like Microsoft Office, for example. Those things have been around for a long time. So you can actually get licenses from us for SharePoint, and then we can also give you Microsoft Office or Link or Skype or whatever that's going to end up being over the next few days. And so you can get access to that content already.
Second question is, going back to your original slide about the breakdown of the users within the organisation.
Yep.
Do you have a particular sort of themes or tranches of training you recommend?
Yeah, we have effectively we just use a series of questions to help identify that. So it's going to be different in different scenarios. So for example, if someone comes in and they're a developer and they want to pass the Microsoft exams, then there'll be a particular route that we would take them down. And partly we'd say to them, you're a developer, you want to pass the exams, but what's your starting point? Have you used SharePoint before? So they might not be very happy with it, but really they should do some end user training before they then go into the developer training and then go into the advanced stuff for the exams.
Is there any sort of standard for your average organisation? You've got your service desk guys, you've got your...
Yeah, we do have standards that we'd recommend, yes. But partly that again though comes down to timing. If you say we could tell you what we'd recommend in an ideal world, then a lot of customers say, well, we can't do that many days, and then so because of that, a lot of our stuff was we listen to what people tell us, and then we can help you. So there are standards, and then also most things get customised. So again, if you come down to the stand, if you talk to ourselves or Zoe or Kate or anyone down there, we can tell you what the standard would be. We can email you the sort of standard roadmaps as well. Yep. So we do have standard ones, but most people customise them in some way, which is good fun. Keeps us all busy. Right, so just as we come to the sign-off then, so effectively if we'd come in and had this session in 2003, it would have been a pretty quick session. We would have said there's books, come to the classroom. Luckily, as we are now, we're a bit further into the future, and as we said, typical customers would use a whole variety of these things. So for the last 3 projects that I've worked on, we've used a combination of at least the classroom, the Support Plus, and the online training. And then for some of the customers, we've gone into the training plus stuff as well. So typically it's a combination which is really helping people. So a quick summary just to finish things off. So we've said everyone from the admins and the developers, which quite often are working towards exams. We've got classroom sessions for them. We've already said that a variety of techniques is what we probably recommend. The majority of things we do are customised in some way. Some of the customisation we do in the courses is to make use of third-party products as well. Yep, so if you've got a third-party product to help your end users integrate Outlook, for example, or to build workflows, for example, then we're aware of most of those third-party tools, and we can integrate that into the training as well. Yep, so some people say, okay, you could do the SharePoint training, and then someone else will come in and do a half an hour on this other thing. Just a hassle. So again, we'll say, no, it's okay. We'll make it as easy for you as possible. We'll learn these things, and we'll incorporate those into there as well. For anyone that's interested in mapping to the exams, things like the administrator and the developer courses do map to the Microsoft exams. Yep. So although we've not focused on it today because we don't want to just be saying, like, get the pass, get the exam, and hopefully you'll be okay, really we try and focus on being able to do practical things when you get back to work in terms of being a good developer, and then hopefully the exam is an effect of that rather than the goal. Keep an eye on our website, so that's combined-knowledge.com. So when you visit the website, there's all sorts of special offers, webinars, there's all sorts of different things on there. So keep an eye on that. It does change all the time. And then we've had a few questions already. Everyone's been quite lively. So yeah, thanks for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.